The following may contain language that is not suitable for all audiences. It's time for the Low Fact Podcast. Well, yet another week, and here we are again.
Woohoo! In our alternative location.
Here we go. And remember, please like, subscribe. I don't know what it does, but
I don't think anybody's subscribing, bro.
Well, I'd like to have a little bit more subscribers. I don't know why everybody keeps on saying that on their podcasts, but
I think if you have subscribers, you can get other stuff.
I'm not really worried about monetizing. I just like to know that I have a big following. So, what's been going on in the news this week?
I don't really know.
Well, there was that, supposedly that pipeline got hacked by some ransomware, causing gas shortages all across the eastern seaboard.
That's just kind of odd to me.
I think it's kind of funny that when the press conference was going and they were asking, so are they going to pay it? Whoever it was, it might have been the press secretary or something, was like, oh, it's a private business, we can't say what they're going to do, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, shit, they're going to pay it. When I heard about the thing, and then I heard a few days...
I thought we didn't negotiate with terrorists.
Well, then I heard a few days later that when the government official was there talking about it, they had already paid it.
How much?
It seemed like a really small amount, like $5 million.
That's not a small amount.
For ransomware and stuff like that? Oh, yeah. But then I also heard that afterwards, the group that was supposedly responsible for it got hacked themselves.
They're called like Dark Force or something, right?
Yeah, so Didn't
they also hack Toshiba in Japan?
I don't know.
That's what I heard.
But I did hear something on the BBC News about they were hacked subsequently, and there was all kinds of, theories or suppositions that the U.S. might have got in there and counter-hacked them or something.
I would think that the U.S. government would have some good hackers.
I would imagine. I mean, they hire people on an ad hoc basis.
They probably recruit, like, whiz kids.
Yeah, but those whiz kids can make way more money working for gaming companies or Facebook or...
I don't know.
Doing black hat stuff. Hired as security consultants for the various places.
But wouldn't it be cool, though, to be able to say, oh, I'm a hacker for the United States government?
You can't really... I don't think you can divulge that.
Oh.
What else is going on?
Harris and Biden are yet to go to the border, I heard.
Yeah, but that's old news.
Is it?
It is.
Everyone on the right's talking about what a shit show it is.
Liz Cheney got voted out of her position.
Oh, she's gone?
In the leadership of the Republican Party.
I think the death knell was Nancy Pelosi coming out in support of her.
I don't know that it's that big of a deal. I mean, this whole idea, it seems like everybody that works in those, that makes a living off of being an elected official, they're basically commie or commie light.
Everybody?
I think a lot of people. I mean, it just kind of, when you start good, the whole purpose, a lot of the bureaucrats are that way, and then the elected officials. I mean, it doesn't seem like anybody's really doing anything.
You mean getting stuff done?
Well, they sound pretty progressive. And I think China landed a rover or something on Mars.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm living under a rock.
Or so they say. I mean, this could all just be propaganda, right? I mean...
So when are they going to the moon?
They already landed a thing on the moon. They just hadn't landed a manned flight.
How come no one's landed a manned flight on the moon?
Because they use the metric system, I believe.
I mean, isn't it about time?
Well, I like that old joke. There are two kinds of countries in the world.
Mm-hmm.
I
think I know the punchline for this joke.
Yeah, the ones that landed on the moon and the ones that are on the metric system.
That's a very pro-American joke.
Hey, man, it just happens to be the truth.
But why has nobody gone back to the moon?
Probably because there's nothing there. I mean, doing that stuff is really just to showcase your country, your economy, your know-how. It's really for propaganda purposes.
So there's no need anymore?
I don't think there was ever a need, but and some people believe that that never happened.
Of course it happened.
What was another thing I was thinking of? Oh yeah, it was in connection with the whole victim privilege. It used to be when I was growing up that people in America would never admit to or claim to be wealthy.
Okay.
Now the whole thing is about never talking about how much power you have, power or privilege.
Oh yeah, so all the people who have all the power and privilege sit there and say,
I'm oppressed. I have no power.
I did hear a snippet about, I guess, an interview that Michelle Obama gave where she was talking about her children and, how just driving, they would just never know what could happen to them. And I think one of the conservative commentators was like, she's going to have like they're going to have like Secret Service.
Yeah, they have Secret Service protection.
And never going to experience that.
Well, I remember the whole Meghan Markle thing, and it took me a while to kind of hear the Piers Morgan stuff. I was never aware that most of the stuff that Meghan Markle was saying, a lot of it has been proved to be untrue.
Like what?
Well, like
the way she was treated and
that seems kind of fishy. But the one part that I had heard was about her son not being given the title of a prince, probably because of his skin color or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And Piers Morgan was like, that's untrue. You are given the title of a prince up until the monarch's grandchildren.
Yeah, so it's based on.
So that kid is the monarch's great grandson.
So he doesn't get a title.
Not as prince.
Wow, she is a real.
If Prince Charles becomes the monarch,
then the kid would.
Right, and then.
But Prince Charles probably isn't going to.
Well, you never know. I mean, his parents are pretty long lived. He's got at least another 30 years.
But I don't think he gets a say in it, does he? I mean, doesn't she get to choose?
Not necessarily. If she dies, then he becomes the king.
Mm.
And the thing about Prince William's kids probably being given the title of prince, princess, they're like in the direct line of succession.
Yeah.
Their dad's going to be the king.
Definitely.
Right? So,
I mean, I don't think the monarchy is going anywhere.
Probably not. I mean, after World War I think the joke was now there'll only be 5 kings in Europe.
Well,
The King of Spades, the King of Hearts, the King of Diamonds, the King of Clubs, and the King of England.
Where the hell do you remember this shit from?
It was an old documentary. But
so are they still here? Is Meghan Markle and...
Oh yeah, they're raking in dough.
They're in LA or something?
They're raking in dough, getting all kinds of deals and stuff because,
Because I remember seeing the other one years ago, the black sheep, what's her name? The redhead.
Sarah Ferguson?
Yeah, she was at like the Four Seasons.
Probably.
And there was a whole lot of like Hollywood guys
no doubt.
just schmoozing with her.
No doubt.
I remember seeing her there, and I guess she was here trying to get some stuff happening.
But what I was going to talk about, or what I was going to mention about the whole victim privilege type thing, and because I had heard someone, it might have been an interview, but someone sitting there saying, or I might have read something about how Christianity might have had something to do with that. Victim privilege, the so-called victim having all the power, and it got me to thinking about that. I guess the biblical verse is the meek shall inherit the earth.
Right.
And I was like, what if that's a mistaken translation? Because if you're meek, you're really just kind of weak.
Yeah. Well, you don't speak up.
Well, if you're meek, it's pretty synonymous with weak. And I was sitting there going, what if it was really meant to say the humble shall inherit the earth? Because if you're humble, you're not weak or meek.
Meek does sound like a I mean, that's so funny.
I don't know where I'm going with it. And I don't know that it, and like I've said before, things seem a lot more profound when you think of it, and then you voice it, and it just falls flat. It's like the distance between your brain and your mouth just tends to.
Well, I was hearing something today, speaking of Bible quotes. Well, I have difficulty with the whole concept of loving thy neighbor.
You mean loving your enemy as your...
Sorry, loving your enemy, yeah, and the idea that if you treat your enemy with respect, that somehow they're going to be converted to your way of thinking. I have difficulty with that because
I think it's untrue.
I mean, your enemy is going to take advantage of that. Sure.
Your enemy really wants your demise or destruction.
But I think the theological position behind it is, at least because they were talking about some quotes in the Old Testament, and then they were talking about Jesus' teachings. But basically, the idea is that like it's not for us to be be wrathful and to mete out revenge on our enemies. That's up to God.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was thinking, well, but there was plenty of vengeful acts and plenty of killing and warring going on in the Old Testament.
Yeah, I forget which saint it was, but the whole, like there are a lot of military, the slogan that show up on a lot of military t-shirts, kill them all, let God sort them out. That was essentially a saint.
Well, St. Francis of Assisi was a soldier.
Yeah, but it wasn't St. Francis that said it.
But yeah, I did definitely have difficulty with that concept because it's like, okay, you're supposed to leave it up to God, but what if you've got like some enemy that's about to
do you great bodily harm?
Mm-hmm.
Well, you can deliver them to God and let Him figure it out.
But that's not the teaching. The teaching is that you're supposed to turn the other cheek. The teaching is that you're supposed to...
It's not the teaching, but from a theological standpoint, I don't think anybody's going to sit there and say, oh, you shouldn't have done that.
But that's not what they teach, though. They teach... They're like, if you're going to be a good Christian, it's not about being wrathful. It's not about...
Sure, but it's also not about being a doormat, I would believe.
Yeah, but how do you turn the other cheek without being a doormat, though? I mean, you're essentially letting somebody
not necessarily
commit harm on you.
No, you don't have to let them commit harm on you. You can choose not to, be tit for tat. Someone slaps you in the face, you slap them back.
Yeah.
That made me think of the eye for an eye thing, and I think that's even a mistranslation. Because people use it like, well, it even says in the Bible, an eye for an eye. And I was like, well, no, it says in the Bible no more than an eye for an eye. What's
the distinction there?
If someone slaps you, you can't sit there and cut off their nose.
Okay.
It's not about escalation, which personally I have a hard time with because I'm all about escalation.
That's like my friend who's like, she does the non-violent communication thing, and she was always the one that would say to me like, what did violence ever solve? And I'm like, World War I, World War II. No, I didn't say that to her, but that's what I was thinking.
Central powers, Axis powers, Nazis.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing.
Well, the funny thing is the people that espouse that type of philosophy are totally okay with being authoritarian as long as they're the authoritarians.
It's true. Actually, they're probably the worst kind of authoritarians.
And there is a big belief that, I don't want this to turn into like a theological discussion, but there is the belief that the reason why they're like that is because they're atheists.
How's that? How's that?
Well, no concept of grace or mercy.
Right. Well, that makes sense, actually.
Oh, speaking of religion, apparently there's some big to-do going on in Israel, right?
Yeah, rocket attacks and Israel responding and defending themselves and leveling buildings.
I think there's some defending themselves going, but part of me also thinks, admittedly after I heard Kurt Schlichter say it,
okay,
that they probably got a list of targets that they're like, oh, we can't go after these places. It would just be an aggression. But now that they've been attacked, like, okay, so we know where so and so's hiding. We know where so and so's hiding. Let's level these places.
It looks like they fucking destroyed like quite a few buildings.
Well, that's kind of the nature of war.
Yeah.
The whole point is to win, which is kind of what a lot of people have against what's going on here in America. It's like, why bother expending resources and lives to fight a war if you're not in it to win it?
Right. That makes sense.
I mean, you want to overwhelm your enemy to make them not want to do that again.
Yeah.
Ever.
That's so true. But it's like there was none of this was going on. Like, I don't remember any of this being in the news or this, like, aggression and all this stuff happening in Israel under Trump. So what's changed? Well, aside from there being a change in leadership. In the United States.
You know what I think of that word.
Well, yeah.
It gets bandied around too much, but...
Putting aside your view on the word leadership.
Well, the administration in charge, I think, is seen as weak. And to tell the truth, or not to tell the truth, but quite frankly, the whole point of this administration is all about we're not the last guys. So they don't have anything. They don't have any positions. They have nothing to stand on. The whole point was like, we're not the other guy. So,
But now they're going to have to...
I don't know that they will or won't. I mean, there are a lot of things that are going on with them that just kind of...
Makes no sense.
It also bugs me. Like the whole environmental movement really kind of gets my goat in that it's really convenient how every wish list item
is 50 years away.
No, every wish list item is what is what the environmental movement is comprised of. So it's like, I don't think you guys really care about the environment. You just want these things, and it seems really odd that the way to quote unquote fix the environment is to do all these things that you guys have wanted to do forever.
Like stop people driving cars?
Well, all kinds of stuff. Get off of fossil fuels onto what?
Nuclear.
Well, no, they're against that. So
there's no alternative though.
Well, that's the reason why a lot of people think
like
that they're
the Amish and we'll go and live without power, and
they don't live without power, dude.
Well, I mean, we're not going to like get on planes. We're not going to we're going to change our lifestyle. Well, we're not going to have essentially we're going to have like a reduced quality of life.
Well, no, that's the whole point. The super wealthy and privileged are going to continue to live the way they want to live. Everybody else is who's going to sacrifice.
Great, but nobody's like pointing that out.
I think plenty of people are pointing it out.
So how do you have an environmental movement like outside of these people?
I don't even understand the term or the point.
Well, save the environment.
Does it need to be saved?
Well, yeah. I mean, you got to do something to stop the like rapid like acceleration of extinctions of other species and us like massively exploiting resources. Because at some point, just a whole lot of people. I mean, otherwise, I think probably there'll just be a catastrophe.
Well, it's already. I don't understand where you're going with this.
Well, if the environmental movement has been essentially captured by a bunch of people who are just all about their own agenda, and it's not really about the environment, then
I don't think the word capture is the correct phrase. I think the environmental movement is about that.
That I have a hard time with that.
Okay, I mean, we can disagree on stuff. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I think there are probably environmentalists who are about, preventing species extinction and extending the lifespan of the human species, I guess. I mean, they're people who are the real deal in the environmental movement, but you just don't hear from them very much.
Well, because they probably don't think that they can manage stuff.
What do you mean?
Well, I think it's pretty arrogant to think that, you know, the whole reason for your being is to prevent other species, to basically manage the world and everything in it, to have some kind of balance.
Well, that is the through message in a lot of.
Well, that through message is kind of false, I think. What do you mean by balance? What's an actual balance? They never say, well, because I want this species to keep on going, so we need to make sure things are exactly the same to make this species, my species, continue on for as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that could mean preventing the actual species that's supposed to rule the Earth from coming into being, right?
Yeah. Yes, that's I guess that, yeah, definitely.
So,
that's a possibility.
So the whole, and actually we've talked about this before. I think the whole idea that from a lot of the so-called or quote unquote environmentalists or whatever, it's really about
Greenies.
It's really about keeping things the way they are, so that just keeping things the way they are. And in a very odd sense, it's kind of like a person with anorexia for a lot of females. Anorexia generally kind of tends to start when a girl's starting puberty.
Mm-hmm.
So they just stop eating or for whatever reason.
Right. So they don't really develop.
That's I think that's one theory.
Yeah.
But,
By the way, I saw a documentary about what's her name?
Greta Thunberg.
Yeah. Good.
Was that PBS thing?
Yeah.
It's actually a series.
Yeah, I watched a couple of them.
You did?
Yeah, I watched the first two, or maybe it was in the middle. I don't know. It was the middle of the night, and they were playing them all. But I only watched. I probably watched two in total. But she is very odd. She's
on the spectrum,
and her dad is. It just seemed like her dad was just kind of exploiting the notoriety.
Possibly.
And he seemed like a raving, I don't know, just a bit of a lefty lunatic to me.
Well, I think you have to be kind of left. Well, it's weird because the original lefties, the commies, were all against the environment. Nature is something to be conquered and used for my sustenance, I suppose.
Right.
So the whole thing, that's
But wasn't there stuff, there was actually stuff that survived under communism that didn't survive under capitalism, basically because, forests.
No.
You sure?
Yes. There are no trees in North Korea.
Oh, really?
Pretty much.
Oh, well, there goes my theory.
The only reason why there would be forests left in a communist country is because they didn't have the actual mechanical resources to cut down those resources.
I think that's probably why. I think that's why there was some things that survived for that very reason.
It was totally unintended what they wanted.
It was an unintended consequence.
Well, it's not an externality, but it was something that happened despite their desires, not because of it.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny though. Yeah. Because in under capitalism, you would think that the environment would be given a value.
It is.
It's massively undervalued though, or it's like cleanup costs, right? Like they don't factor that in when if some companies we're just not going to deal with the real costs of this pollution and cleanup. We're just going to dump stuff. They're not. When you're paying for something that company's given you, they're not including that cost because they're
because they don't have
we don't have to clean it up. But then what are the long-term consequences of just dumping something that's fucking harmful into the environment?
Well, I would say that would be the result of incomplete information from consumers, number one, or stupidity.
Incomplete information. The hell? What does that even mean?
Well, what if the consumers didn't know that was going on?
Well, they didn't. But that doesn't excuse the acts of that company.
Well, I'm not saying it does.
But you're saying if the consumer had that information, then they wouldn't buy the product.
Potentially. A lot of people talk about how they would rather buy American than something foreign made. This is true. Mm-hmm. What if you can't afford it?
Then you're going to buy whatever you can buy.
Potentially. I mean, there might be people that stick to their principles and be like, well, I don't need a car.
Right. That's very few, and probably very few individuals.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like the individuals. A lot of people that have podcasts or shows or are being supported by their listeners or whatever, right? By their audience. Mm-hmm. No, I have no ill will towards those people. Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of people. Actually, that was a weird intro because the rest of my statement has nothing to do with that. So scratch that. There are a lot of people that sit there and say, "I just want to be left alone and do my own thing." Mm-hmm. Like, you're full of crap. You don't want to actually be left alone and do your own thing, because if you did, you'd go somewhere where there were no people. Well, I can't find a place like that. Oh, sure you can.
I just, like, I'm on TV in this reality TV show, but I just want to be left alone.
Right, exactly.
I've got my own podcast, but I really want, like, way more followers. But
yeah, I've got my own podcast, and you guys are the more people, the more of you that listen to me, the more money I make. I just want to be left alone and do my own thing. Like, you're full of crap. You don't be left alone and do your own thing. Not literally.
So there's plenty. I mean, I guess there is still plenty of places in the world you can go where there's fucking nobody.
There's tons of places where you can go,
and they're generally probably uncomfortable and inhospitable.
Yeah, you might die there. Right? You know,
like the jungle.
Hey, well, if you don't like the jungle, you can go to a temperate rainforest. You know, Oregon, Washington.
That sounds
Canada.
Uncomfortable too.
Well, yeah, but
probably there's not so much that can kill you there.
No, there's all kinds of stuff that can kill you, but you know, being in the jungle I'd rather be in the jungle than the desert.
Both those seem unappetizing to me.
Well, they are, but if you don't...
Unappetizing. I don't know if it's...
Unappealing.
Unappealing, I mean.
But, you know, at least in the jungle, you have a shot at surviving.
In the desert, you're just going to get fucking cooked.
Your lips will get all chapped, and that's just...
I've never really had super chapped cracked lips.
Oh, it's...
pretty painful.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't had the blistering going on from being in the desert for like a week without water. Well, I'd be dead.
Oh, God.
But you know, I mean, just it's no place like the desert to teach you how sensitive your skin is.
So did you watch the Greta thing?
Oh, hell no. Oh, hell to the no.
Because I don't understand. The thing I didn't understand when I was watching it is I don't understand her notoriety. Like, I don't understand how it is that she has this massive celebrity status.
I basically think that she is a pawn/mascot being held up by a bunch of people who are performing their virtue.
But she's not even like to see her interact with, because like there was a part where she went and visited this. It was I think it was in California, but anyway, it was somewhere where they had introduced some technology to capture methane, methane gas from cows. So it was like a big, you know.
Did they put some kind of apparatus on cow buttholes?
I don't know, but the guy was showing her the plant, and I was expecting her to. I don't know what I was expecting. I was expecting her to ask some intelligent questions, and just to show that she was this.
Well, she is in middle school.
Yeah, but like she's what the environmental movement is holding. They're saying this is it. This is the future.
A person with Asperger, well, not having Asperger, a person who's probably on the autism spectrum.
They're like, she's the future, and I'm like, I don't get it.
Well, I personally think that's just kind of BS and propaganda.
But how did it come about, Dave?
I don't think that's an important question.
Really?
Yeah.
Because I would like to know how the movement decided that she was it.
Well, you're making out like the quote unquote movement is this brain.
Yeah.
Most of the time, individuals and collectors are just fumbling along trying to make it to tomorrow, make it to another day in the form, in the custom, in the habit, or whatever. It's really late, which is why we are less
Yeah, it's like 11:45
Less intelligent
on
than
Saturday
usual.
night, and we've just like had a long day. So apologies, people.
But I think people are trying to just continue in the way that they're accustomed, and that's the only thought, if any, people have. I mean, that's how I think that's how people get addicted to drugs. I think that's how people go into crime, and being this tired is probably like being high to me because I'm like, well, what is crime really?
Well, I don't know what got me thinking about Greta, but it's
Very disturbing. Yes.
I'm like, if she's the future, if she's the person that's going to be leading the charge for,
There's that word.
shut up, leading the charge for saving the world, I'm like, no, like she is not the person that you should be looking to. And if you're looking to her, then
You're lazy.
no.
Yes. It's an unfortunate truth, but yes, if you're looking to someone else to make your life better, you're lazy.
Well, yeah,
Intellectually or physically or both, or quite possibly you don't have the brain power that God gave a turnip.